I'm a new dad. I have a daughter, and I still care very deeply about this very well done video the CBC here in Canada put together. Because the boys struggling in this report, they grow up. They become men my daughter will work alongside with, befriend, get married to, build a life around. So this isn't just a boy problem. This is an everyone problem. Let's watch it together.
How does my kid stand a chance in this when clearly no one cares? Makes me so sad for them.
Jessica Sabatini says she's very concerned about her son's future in school.
My concern is that he's not going to feel like he fits or belongs or can be successful in that space. And if he doesn't feel like he can be successful, then I worry he will give up and he'll decide it's not worth putting an effort to learn what's being offered to him.
Right there. Did you catch that? She's not describing a bad kid. She's describing a boy who has already decided that the system isn't built for him. And here's what's sobering about that. She's probably right. When a child stops believing they belong in a space, they don't fight harder. They check out. And the tragedy here is we've trained boys to interpret that exit as toughness. You hear them say, "No, I don't need school." But what they actually mean is that they're hurting, and nobody taught them how to say that. And she's a teacher herself. This isn't an uninformed opinion. She sees it from both sides.
It works sometimes.
She has worked as a teacher in 3 different provinces and has seen how boys struggle more than girls. But for some reason, the problem seems to be kept quiet.
We're seeing the boys not doing well in school, but I think boys not doing well in school is kind of silent. People don't pay attention to that. Let's go meet some of our favorite baby animals.
And then it all hit home once her son Enzo started grade 1.
I noticed he found school hard, and he would come home like kind of completely worn out. And I started thinking to myself, like, why is he so tired?
A new report from Quebec supports her fears.
Jesus.
The report, called from the data submitted to the Quebec government, is called Those We Leave Behind. It zeroes in on how Quebec's regular public schools amp up the academic and disciplinary disparities between boys and girls. The annual dropout rate for boys is 27.1%. For girls, it's 19.9%.
Wow, almost 30% of boys are dropping out? Let that sink in. That's not a small gap. That is a generation of young men walking away from one of the primary pathways to stability, purpose, and contribution. And yet, when's the last time you heard this framed as a national emergency? We track everything else. We fund awareness campaigns for everything else. But this? Crickets. The professor in this video says it plainly. People were afraid that talking about this issue would undermine the progress made for women. But here's what I'd like to say to that. You can't build a healthy society on a foundation where one group has to lose for another to win. That's not justice. That's a different injustice.
Boys are also less likely to get into prestigious academic programs in high school. On the standardized French proficiency test in secondary school, boys are well below the median for all students, with just over 60% meeting the bar, as opposed to just over 70% of girls.
She moves hand over hand through the trees.
Jessica Sabatini believes this is a systematic pattern.
Is it different for boys in the school system than for girls?
100%. I think it is. I think the school system wants students to fit into this box. And when students don't fit into the box, they get labeled as difficult or problematic or falling behind.
Man, I've been thinking about this a lot since becoming a dad. We talk about boys needing structure, and I agree. Boys absolutely need structure and discipline. But there's a massive difference between structure that develops a boy and structure that just contains him. One builds character, the other just manages behavior, until the boy decides it's not worth tolerating anymore. And when that happens, when the school fails to reach him, where does he go? He goes online. He finds social media. He dives into Reddit and all these rabbit holes. he finds a dark community that tells him exactly what his uninformed identity wants him to hear. And that's where this gets dangerous.
This isn't just a Quebec problem. Experts say it's happening across Canada and around the world.
According to recent data, post-secondary campuses in Canada consist of 56.1% women and 43.9% men. Experts tell us boys are significantly behind their female peers academically, having trouble focusing or sitting still or following classroom rules, and as a consequence, facing a higher number of disciplinary actions. Things their parents say set them up for a lack of success later on in life.
Oh, does that go somewhere here?
No, this.
In Toronto, another family and another mother who also works as a teacher and is concerned about how her boys will do at school.
Jump.
Their oldest, Silas, is an active 3-year-old, but mom, Cassie Carpino, and dad, Carson Sauer, worry that in school he'll be labeled as difficult or disruptive.
Does he float like a boat?
They're also troubled by high rates of ADHD diagnoses in boys. In Canada, they're twice more likely to be diagnosed than girls.
Now he's a clock.
Our concern is teachers talk, people talk. Like you get a class, they're already like, this is bad. This is like, there's already that stigma, right? And then they know that stigma. They're not unaware of what is being said about them or how people feel about them.
I want to go out for coffee. He says, we have coffee at home, Daddy. Like, why can't I get a cookie with that coffee? You get this, I get that. Like, he's already negotiating. He's already pushing back, which I personally love, but that might not go over well in a classroom setting.
This build the rock like that. Yeah.
It's a social phenomenon Professor of Economics Catherine Heck has studied for a while. The effects of boys not doing well at school are far-reaching, she says, and everyone should care.
So if we look at just in Canada, if boys were graduating as much as girls are graduating from university, we would have over 65,000 more boys obtaining a university level diploma. So it's a huge number.
A number, she says, that should concern us as a society at large.
If you look at people who complete education and you look at the impact it can have on their life, it will have impact on their health, it will have impact in their ability to participate in the community, to defend themselves. There are all sorts of other consequences to education that are beyond the economic reason.
She says the problem is compounded by the reluctance to even talk about it.
I think they felt like if we talked about this, it would cause a prejudice for all the work that had been done for women to be more equal in the labor market.
Why this is happening is not simple to explain.
It is important to be yourself.
Matthew Morris is a longtime middle school teacher who is now an instructor at Teachers College.
Do you think there's a boy crisis in schools?
I mean, 100%. The data, first of all, shows it. I worked in schools, sitting behind that desk for 15 years. Undoubtedly, boys are disengaging earlier and earlier and earlier with schools.
He thinks that part, though not all of the problem, is that the early ways children get evaluated in schools favor girls.
Generally, who has the nice and neat and clean desk? It's usually the girls, right? The boys are generally, particularly when they're younger, a little more disorganized in that sense, right? What happens at recess time? Everyone goes out, the boys run out to the field. They put their hoodies and their jackets and their boots down to make 2 nets. They keep score. The bell rings, and then in the afternoon recess, they pick the game up exactly where it ended. Is that not organization? But that doesn't get valued and viewed as organization in schools.
This man taught middle school for 15 years. He's not speculating. He watched it happen in real time, desk by desk, year after year, and notice what he said. Earlier and earlier. This isn't a high school problem anymore. We're losing boys before they even hit adolescence, before they've had a chance to figure out who they are. And if a boy's very first major institutional experience teaches him that he doesn't fit, that his energy is the problem, that his instincts are wrong, what story does he start telling himself about his worth? What story is harder to rewrite later?
He thinks that part, though not all of the problem, is that the early ways children get evaluated in schools favor girls.
Generally, who has the nice and neat and clean desk? It's usually the girls, right? The boys are generally, particularly when they're younger, a little more disorganized in that sense, right? What happens at recess time? Everyone goes out, the boys run out to the field. They put their hoodies and their jackets and their boots down to make 2 nets. They keep score. The bell rings, and then in the afternoon recess, they pick the game up exactly where it ended. Is that not organization? But that doesn't get valued and viewed as organization in schools.
Okay, this part right here is gold. Because what he's describing here is real leadership and organizational intelligence. These boys are negotiating teams, setting boundaries, reinforcing rules, tracking a score across time gaps, and resolving conflict on the fly. That is exactly the kind of thinking that builds things in the real world. But because it doesn't look like a tidy desk and a raised hand, we call it chaos. And then we wonder why boys grow up feeling like their gifts don't matter. We condition them to believe that from the age of 6.
He also believes the boys are more susceptible to the harms of online and digital engagement and says things such as the online manosphere should be a concern for parents.
Those new fears, new stakes came up with many of the people we interviewed. In addition to the more pragmatic worries about, say, boys not being able to find work, parents also worried about poor mental health outcomes or them falling prey to toxic, misogynistic influences in real life or online.
Look at this. Bum-ba-da.
Oh, that elephant goes like that.
My fear is that if he's not getting the validation at school or in education, he's going to find other places, and maybe not the best places. You know, like becoming against institution and against schooling and against education. That's what we don't want for him.
This is exactly the pipeline I talk about on this channel. Boys who don't find belonging in healthy spaces don't just disappear. They find belonging somewhere else. And right now, the loudest and most accessible, most validating spaces for young men online is the manosphere, the red pill, the black pill. These spaces are brilliant at one thing. They make a hurt, confused young man feel seen. They say the system failed you. Your instincts were right. Now here's who to blame. And a boy with no other framework grabs onto that with both hands. Not because he's weak, because he's human. We all need to belong somewhere. The question is whether the family, the school, the church gives him somewhere better to land first. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." The inverse is also true. If we fail to train a boy in a meaningful direction, someone else will. And we may not like where that will take him.
In fact, it's a problem large enough that the federal government recognizes it. The government is working on a first ever men and boys health strategy to be rolled out later this year. It's aimed at reducing mental health harms. It cites some alarming statistics. For boys as young as 15 in the period from 2012 to 2022, the percentage who reported very good or excellent mental health fell from 70% to just 52%.
That is mind-blowing. That's 18 points in 10 years. Think about what happened in that whole decade. Smartphones became universal. Social media became the primary social environment for teenagers. The manosphere exploded. Hustle culture told boys their worth was their output. And the church, in many cases, went quiet on masculinity or got it completely wrong. We handed an entire generation of teenagers a phone in their hand. We pulled back every guardrail and then expressed shock when nearly 1 in 5 stopped believing they were okay. These aren't just statistics to me. These are real young men. And a lot of them are watching videos online like this right now. Even this one, which gives me hope. There is still time.
Experts we spoke to say the school system is a contributor to this impact on boys' mental health. But how to fix boys falling behind in schools is a matter of some debate. And can we do it without damaging girls who are comparatively thriving?
Anger, frustration.
This author and activist says what needs to be fixed is the society, where men, especially those who are middle class and white, hold disproportionate power in adulthood, no matter how they do at school.
So the boy crisis often uses the 1 or 2 metrics where girls are excelling, but doesn't look at that difference between boys and girls in the larger system of male supremacy, in which, regardless of how boys and men operate in school, systemically, structurally, in our societies, they still maintain power. And so as long as that disconnect between performance and power is relevant, then investments in education become less and less and less important. for boys.
Okay, I want to be fair here. I understand the concern underneath what she's saying. The history of women being structurally excluded from education and leadership is real, and we should never pretend otherwise. But here's where I part ways with this argument. Telling a 15-year-old boy who is struggling, disengaged, quietly despairing, but systematically men still win, does not help that boy. It does not reach him. It actually confirms what the manosphere already told him, that nobody in positions of influence actually care about his pain. Both of those things are true, and choosing one as more important than the other is a political decision, not a human one.
But Heck says that's not how this should work.
Even if in the labor market, boys are still having higher income than women for a similar occupation. So this is a different problem, but you don't solve the labor market problem by creating a different problem in the education system.
Finally, a voice of sanity. You don't fix an injustice by creating a brand new one and calling it balance. That's not how this works. Every boy in that classroom is someone's son. Every boy who drops out is a man who will struggle to build a stable life, a stable family, a stable community. And those consequences don't stay contained in him. They ripple outward. We've talked about on this channel how men's struggles affect marriages, children, communities. This is upstream of all of that.
Some people will just say, look, boys need to get serious, pull their socks up, and just work harder so that they can compete with their female classmates. What do you say to that argument?
I don't think it's the right approach. I think for anyone, it's important to feel like you belong and to feel like your group is equally as important as another group. And you start to have more and more difficulties, and then it's this like self-fulfilling prophecy because you invest less, you're not as good, and then you're not able to succeed.
Some education experts suggest more physical activity is key to happiness and compliance in schools, especially for younger boys, a strategy that benefits all students. Jessica Sabatini agrees.
When I taught in BC, I had a few boys. You could tell they were just high energy boys because I was teaching grade 2. They're 7. They're 7-year-old boys. And I would just say, okay, just stand at your desk then. Because even just that act of standing at your desk, you have to use more energy to get the job done. You're going to twist yourself up again?
Yeah.
You feel like as a parent, what am I going to do to fix this? How do I possibly stand a chance? Or how does my kid stand a chance in this? When clearly no one cares. So it just makes me so sad. These poor kids. Yeah, it makes me so sad for them. And so are you ready for school?
Here's what I take away from this video. The boy crisis is 100% real. The data isn't political. The parents in this video aren't making it up. And the solution is not going to come from a government strategy alone. Though I'm glad someone's paying attention. The solution starts with men like you and me deciding that the next generation of boys, the next generation of young men, deserve something better than we're serving them right now. It starts with fathers showing up. Not perfectly, just consistently. It starts with churches being willing to talk about masculinity, honestly, not just managing behavior, but actually forming character. It starts with men building brotherhood like we talked about in previous videos here. Because boys watch what men do far more than they listen to what anyone says. I'm raising a daughter, and I'm not worried about the boys who grow up in homes with present, faithful, engaged fathers. I'm worried about the ones who don't, and there are sadly a lot of them. That should keep us all up at night. And more importantly, it should get us off the couch. If this video connected with something that you've also been thinking about, subscribe to this channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Share this with a man who's raising sons, who's working with boys, or who used to be that disengaged kid himself. Because restoring a generation of young men, that's the better story.